Okay, tonight is the 28th of July. This is the 13th night. We're talking on the Digha Nikaya Suttas. We were doing Sutta number 16 for 2 nights. Now this is the third night. We come to page 262. The Lord said, Ananda, let us cross the Hiranyavati river and go to the Mala Sal Grove in the vicinity of Kusinara. Very good, Lord, said Ananda. And the Lord, with a large company of monks, crossed the river and went to the Sal Grove. There the Lord said, Ananda, prepare me a bed between these twin sal trees with my head to the north. I am tired and want to lie down. Very good, Lord, said Ananda, and did so. Then the Lord lay down on his right side in the lying posture, placing one foot on the other, mindful and clearly aware. And those twin sal trees burst forth into an abundance of untimely blossoms, which fell upon the Tathagata's body, sprinkling it and covering it in homage. Divine coral tree flowers fell from the sky. Divine sandalwood powder fell from the sky, sprinkling and covering the Tathagata's body in homage. Divine music and song sounded from the sky in homage to the Tathagata. And the Lord said, Ananda, these sal trees have burst forth into an abundance of untimely blossoms. Divine or heavenly music and song sound from the sky in homage to the Tathagata. Never before has the Tathagata been so honored, revered, esteemed, worshipped and adored. And yet, Ananda, whatever monk, nun, male or female lay follower, dwells practicing the Dhamma properly and perfectly fulfills the Dhamma way, he or she honors the Tathagata, reveres and esteems him, and pays him the supreme homage. Therefore, Ananda, we will dwell practicing the Dhamma properly and perfectly fulfill the Dhamma way. This must be your watchword. I'll stop here for a moment. So here, whatever homage we pay to the Buddha, the highest is to practice his words in the suttas and do as much as we can to fulfill the way of the Dhamma. Then we really have paid homage to the Buddha. That's why when the Arahants attain liberation, they say that they have paid the highest homage to the Buddha because they have totally fulfilled the Buddha's instructions and attained liberation. Just then, the Venerable Upavana was standing in front of the Lord, fanning him. And the Lord told him to move. Move aside, monk. Do not stand in front of me. And the Venerable Ananda thought, this Venerable Upavana has long been the Lord's attendant, keeping close at hand, at his beck and call. And now in his last hour, the Lord tells him to stand aside and not stand in front of him. Why ever does he do that? And he asked the Lord about this. And the Buddha said, Ananda, the Devas from 10 world spheres have gathered to see the Tathagata for a distance of 12 yojanas around the Mala Sal Grove near Kusinara. There is not a space you could touch with the point of a hair that is not filled with mighty Devas. And they are grumbling, we have come a long way to see the Tathagata. It is rare for a Tathagata, a Sammasambuddha, to arise in the world. And tonight, in the last watch, the Tathagata will attain final Nibbana. And this mighty monk is standing in front of the Lord, preventing us from getting a glimpse of the Tathagata. And Ananda asked, but Lord, what kind of devas can the Lord perceive? And the Buddha said, Ananda, there are sky devas whose minds are earthbound. They are weeping and tearing their hair, raising their arms, throwing themselves down and twisting and turning, crying, all too soon the blessed Lord is passing away. All too soon the welfarer is passing away. All too soon the eye of the world is disappearing. And there are earth devas whose minds are earthbound, who do likewise. But those devas who are free from craving endure patiently, saying, all compounded things are impermanent. What is the use of this? Lord, formerly monks who had spent the rains in various places used to come to see the Tathagata, and we used to welcome them so that such well-trained monks might see you and pay their respects. But with the Lord's passing, we shall no longer have a chance to do this. And the Buddha said, Ananda, there are 4 places, the sight of which should arouse emotion in the faithful. Which are they? Here the Tathagata was born is the first. Here the Tathagata attained supreme enlightenment is the second. Here the Tathagata set in motion the wheel of Dhamma is the third. Here the Tathagata attained the Nibbana element without remainder is the fourth. And Ananda, the faithful monks and nuns, male and female lay followers, will visit those places, and any who die while making the pilgrimage to these shrines with a devout heart will, at the breaking up of the body after death, be reborn in a heavenly world. I'll stop here for a moment. So here, the Buddha is saying that these 4 places, many people will go, even like nowadays. And if you go there with a very devout heart, then if you happen to die there, you will probably be reborn in heaven. But if you have a devout heart, you die anywhere also you'll be reborn in heaven, not necessarily there. And Ananda asked, Lord, how should we act towards women? Do not see them, Ananda. But if we see them, how should we behave, Lord? Do not speak to them, Ananda. But if they speak to us, Lord, how should we behave? Practice mindfulness, Ananda. Stop here for a moment. This part also is very important. When someone practices the spiritual path, he should keep a distance from the opposite sex. So that's why the Buddha says, try not to see women. And then if we have to see them, try not to speak. And we have to speak, practice mindfulness. So it's the same, men towards women and women towards men. And Ananda asked again, Lord, what shall we do with the Tathagata's remains? And the Buddha said, do not worry yourselves about the funeral arrangements, Ananda. You should strive for the highest goal. Devote yourselves to the highest goal and dwell with your minds tirelessly, zealously devoted to the highest goal. There are wise Katyas, Brahmins and householders who are devoted to the Tathagata. They will take care of the funeral. But Lord, what are we to do with the Tathagata's remains? And the Buddha said, Ananda, they should be dealt with like the remains of a wheel-turning monarch. And how is that, Lord? And the Buddha said, Ananda, the remains of a wheel-turning monarch are wrapped in a new linen cloth. This they wrap in teased cotton wool, and this in a new cloth. Having done this 500 times each, they enclose the king's body in an oil vat of iron, which is covered with another iron pot. Then, having made a funeral pyre of all manner of perfumes, they cremate the king's body, and they raise a stupa at the crossroads. That, Ananda, is what they do with the remains of a wheel-turning monarch. And they should deal with the Tathagata's body in the same way. A stupa should be erected at the crossroads for the Tathagata, and whoever lays wreaths or puts sweet perfumes and colors there with a devout heart will reap benefit and happiness for a long time. Ananda, there are 4 persons worthy of a stupa. Who are they? A Tathagata, Arahant, Sammasambuddha is one. A Pacceka Buddha is another. A disciple of a Tathagata is another. And a wheel-turning monarch is another. And why is each of these worthy of a stupa? Because, Ananda, at the thought, this is the stupa of a Tathagata, or of a Pacceka Buddha, or of a disciple of the Tathagata, or of a wheel-turning monarch, people's hearts are made peaceful, and then at the breaking up of the body after death, they go to a good destiny and re-arise in a heavenly world. That is the reason, and those are the four who are worthy of a stupa. Stop here for a moment. So here, as far as the funeral arrangements, the Buddha said monks should not worry about how to arrange the funeral for the Buddha. He said, leave it to the lay people. Monks' duties is to practice, devoted to the highest goal. And then at the bottom of this section, the Buddha talks about 4 persons worthy of a stupa. One is a Sammasambuddha. Second is a Pacceka Buddha. Third, here it says disciple, but I think elsewhere they say Aryan disciple of the Buddha. One who has attained Sotapanna, Sakadagami, or Anagami, or Arahant. And then the fourth is a wheel-turning monarch or universal monarch. You notice here there's no mention of Bodhisattva or Bodhisattva. In the Buddha's teachings, a Bodhisattva is can be Putujana or can be Arya. So if an Arya is already under this the third category. So later books only they put the Bodhisattva on such a high pedestal and say that there are 53 levels of Bodhisattva, and Arahant is only somewhere in the middle. Arahant is even lower than the Bodhisattva. But in fact, Arahant is the highest stage of Aryahood. In fact, these 3, Sammasambuddha, Pacceka Buddha, and Arahant, all 3 are Arahants. Arahant, the word Arahant comes from the word Arahatta. And Arahatta consists of 2 words, Ara and Hatta. Ara is the spokes of the wheel, meaning here the wheel of samsara. Hatta is broken. So one who has broken the wheel of samsara is liberated. So a liberated Arahant, there are 3 types. One is an Arahant disciple of the Buddha, and then the Pacceka Buddha. Pacceka Buddha, Buddha means a self-enlightened Arahant. One in his last life, there's no Dhamma around, and he strives very hard by his own effort. He attains enlightenment, that is a Buddha. So Buddhas, there are 2 types. One is Pacceka, who does not want to teach, which consists of 99.9% of the Buddhas, and Sammasambuddha, one who wants to teach the Dhamma to the whole world, and that is a very rare thing to find. And the Venerable Ananda went into his lodging and stood lamenting, leaning on the doorpost. Alas, I am still a learner, a Seka, with much to do, and the teacher is passing away, who was so compassionate to me. Stop it for a moment. At that time, Venerable Ananda was supposed to be a Sotapanna, first fruit Arya. Then the Lord inquired of the monks where Ananda was, and they told him. So he said to a certain monk, "Go, monk, and say to Ananda for me, 'Friend Ananda, the teacher summons you.' 'Very good, Lord,' said the monk, and did so. 'Very good, friend,' Ananda replied to that monk, and he went to the Lord, saluted him, and sat down to one side. And the Lord said, 'Enough, Ananda, do not weep and wail. Have I not already told you that all things that are pleasant and delightful are changeable, subject to separation and becoming other? So how could it be, Ananda, since whatever is born, become, compounded, is subject to decay? How could it be that it should not pass away? For a long time, Ananda, you have been in the Tathagata's presence, showing loving kindness in acts of body, speech and mind, beneficially, blessedly, wholeheartedly and unstintingly. You have achieved much merit, Ananda. Make the effort, and in a short time you will be free of the asavas.' Then the Lord addressed the monks. 'Monks, all those who were Arahants, Sammasambuddhas in the past, have had just such a chief attendant as Ananda, and so too will those blessed lords who come in the future. Monks, Ananda is wise. He knows when it is the right time for monks to come to see the Tathagata, when it is the right time for nuns, for male lay followers, for female lay followers, for kings, for royal ministers, for leaders of other schools, and for their pupils. Ananda has 4 remarkable and wonderful qualities. What are they? If a company of monks comes to see Ananda, they are pleased at the sight of him. And when Ananda talks Dhamma to them, they are pleased. And when he is silent, they are disappointed. So it is too with nuns, with male and female lay followers. And these 4 qualities apply to a wheel-turning monarch. If he is visited by a company of Khattiyas, of Brahmins, of householders, or of ascetics, they are pleased at the sight of him. And when he talks to them, and when he is silent, they are disappointed. And so too it is with Ananda. Stop here for a moment. So you see the Buddha, he praised Ananda to all the other monks because whenever Ananda has faithfully served the Buddha for 20 or 25 years. That's why the Buddha was quite fond of him. After this, the Venerable Ananda said, Lord, may the Blessed Lord not pass away in this miserable little town of wattle and daub, right in the jungle, in the back of beyond. Lord, there are other great cities such as Champa, Rajagaha, Savatthi, Saketa, Kosambi or Varanasi. In those places there are wealthy Khattiyas, Brahmins and householders who are devoted to the Tathagata, and they will provide for the Tathagata's funeral in proper style. And the Buddha said, Ananda, don't call it a miserable little town of wattle and daub, right in the jungle, in the back of beyond. Once upon a time, Ananda, King Mahasudassana was a wheel-turning monarch, a rightful and righteous king who had conquered the land in 4 directions and ensured the security of his realm, and who possessed the 7 treasures. And Ananda, this King Mahasudassana, had this very Kusinara under the name of Kusavati for his capital, and it was 12 yojanas or 120 kilometers long from east to west, and 7 yojanas or 70 kilometers wide from north to south. Kusavati was rich, prosperous, and well populated, crowded with people and well stocked with food, just as the Deva city of Alakamanda is rich, prosperous and well populated, crowded with yakas and well stocked with food. So was the royal city of Kusavati. And the city of Kusavati was never free of 10 sounds by day or night. The sound of elephants, horses, carriages, kettle drums, side drums, lutes, singing, cymbals and gongs, with cries of eat, drink and be merry as stand. Eat, drink and be merry nowadays will be yam sing. So this one, you see, the Buddha chose to come to this place to pass away. And Venerable Ananda said, this is such a, what we call a ulu place in the back of beyond. Why do you come here? You go to some rich city and pass away there, and the rich lay people will give you a proper funeral. The Buddha said, don't look down on this place. This place used to be the capital of a wheel-turning king. And actually the Buddha was the wheel-turning king. So it looks like the memory of such a beautiful life when he was a wheel-turning monarch brought him back to that place. That's why you see a lot of people, if you look like last night, yesterday, today, you saw the VCD on children who remember their past lives. These children, when they remember their past lives, they want to go back to where they were before. And when they go back and the memory comes back to them, sorrow wells up. They feel a lot of sorrow, all the attachment from the previous life. So in a way, the Buddha still all that memory of the beautiful life, even though maybe you can't say it's attached to it, but the memory of it brings him back to that place to pass away there. And now Ananda, go to Kusinara and announce to the Malas of Kusinara, tonight Vasetas, in the last watch, the Tathagata will attain final Nibbana. Approach him, Vasetas, approach him, lest later you should regret, saying, the Tathagata passed away in our parish, and we did not take the opportunity to see him for the last time. Very good Lord, said Ananda. And taking robe and bowl, he went with a companion to Kusinara. Just then the Malas of Kusinara were assembled in their meeting hall on some business, and Ananda came to them and delivered the Lord's words. And when they heard Ananda's words, the Malas, with their sons, daughters-in-law and wives, were struck with anguish and sorrow. Their minds were overcome with grief, so that they were all weeping and tearing their hair. Then they all went to the Sal Grove where the Venerable Ananda was. And Ananda thought, if I allow the Malas of Kusinara to salute the Lord individually, the night will have passed before they have all paid homage. I had better let them pay homage family by family, saying, Lord, the Mala so-and-so with his children, his wife, his servants and his friends pays homage at the Lord's feet. And so he presented them in that way, and thus allowed all the Malas of Kusinara to pay homage to the Lord in the first watch. I stop here for a moment. So here you see Ananda is a very intelligent attendant of the Buddha. So he always finds the best thing to do. For this person got to be intelligent and got to be mindful, got to observe. How you see in Cantonese? Sang Seng. Sang Seng. Hả? Hả? Mới chuốt à? Sáng mộng. Sáng mộng. Sáng mộng. And at that time a wanderer called Subhadda was in Kusinara, and he heard that the ascetic Gotama was to attain final Nibbana in the final watch of that night. And he thought, I've heard from venerable wanderers, advanced in years, teachers of teachers, that a Tathagata, a Sammasambuddha, only rarely arises in the world. And tonight in the last watch, the ascetic Gotama will attain final Nibbana. Now a doubt has risen in my mind, and I feel sure that the ascetic Gotama can teach me a doctrine to dispel that doubt. So Subhadda went to the Mala Sal Grove, to where the Venerable Ananda was, and told him what he had thought. Reverend Ananda, may I be permitted to see the ascetic Gotama? But Ananda replied, enough, friend Subhadda, do not disturb the Tathagata. The Lord is weary. And Subhadda made his request a second and a third time, but still Ananda refused it. But the Lord overheard this conversation between Ananda and Subhadda, and he called to Ananda, enough, Ananda, do not hinder Subhadda. Let him see the Tathagata, for whatever Subhadda asks, he will ask in quest of enlightenment, and not to annoy me. And what I say in reply to his questions, he will quickly understand. Then Ananda said, go in, friend Subhadda, the Lord gives you leave. So you see here, stop here for a moment. If somebody comes to discuss Dhamma with the Buddha, even on his deathbed, he is willing to discuss, even though he is tired and weary. That's how much people who understand the Dhamma value the Dhamma. Then Subhadda approached the Lord, exchanged courtesies with him, and sat down to one side, saying, Venerable Gotama, all those ascetics and Brahmins who have orders and followings, who are teachers, well known and famous as founders of schools, and popularly regarded as saints like Purana Kassapa, Makali Gosala, Ajita Kesa Kambali, Pakuda Kachayana, Sanjaya Balata Putta, and the Niganta Nata Putta. Have they all realized the truth as they all make out, or have none of them realized it, or have some realized it and some not? And the Buddha said, enough, Subhadda. Never mind whether all or none or some of them have realized the truth. I will teach you Dhamma, Subhadda. Listen, pay close attention, and I will speak. Yes, Lord, says Subhadda. And the Lord said, in whatever Dhamma Vinaya, the Noble Eightfold Path is not found, no ascetic is found of the first, second, third or fourth grade, meaning the first fruit, second fruit, third fruit and fourth fruit are Riyala. But such ascetics can be found of the first, second, third and fourth grade in the Dhammavinaya, where the Noble Eightfold Path is found. Now Subhadha, in this Dhammavinaya, or this Buddhist religion, the Noble Eightfold Path is found, and in it are to be found ascetics of the first, second, third and fourth grade. Those other schools are devoid of true ascetics. But if in this one the monks were to live the life to perfection, the world would not lack for arahants. 29 years of age I was when I went forth to seek the good. Now over 50 years have passed since the day that I went forth to roam the realm of wisdom's law, outside of which no ascetic is. Other schools of such are bare, but if here monks live perfectly, the world won't lack for arahants. Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha is saying, as long as people practice the Noble Eightfold Path fully, then arahants can still be found. So to practice the Noble Eightfold Path perfectly, we have to take the Buddha's words in the suttas as our best guide. At this the wanderer Subhadha said, "Excellent Lord, excellent. It is as if someone were to set up what had been knocked down, or to point out the way to one who had got lost, or to bring an oil lamp into a dark place so that those with eyes could see what was there. Just so the Blessed Lord has expounded the Dhamma in various ways. And I, Lord, go for refuge to the Blessed Lord, the Dhamma and the Sangha. May I receive the going forth in the Lord's presence. May I receive ordination." Stop here for a moment. So here you see, the Buddha is dying already. This man is asking for ordination at the last moment when the Buddha is dying. And the Buddha said, "Subhadha, whoever coming from another school or sect seeks the going forth and ordination in this Dhamma Vinaya must wait 4 months on probation, and at the end of 4 months those monks who are established in mind may let him go forth and give him ordination to the status of a monk. However, there can be a distinction of persons." And he said, "Lord, if those coming from other schools or sects must wait 4 months on probation, I will wait 4 years, and then let them give me the going forth and the ordination." But the Lord said to Ananda, "Let Subhadha go forth." "Very good, Lord," said Ananda. And Subhadha said to the Venerable Ananda, "Friend Ananda, it is a great gain for you all. It is very profitable for you that you have obtained the consecration of discipleship in the teacher's presence." Then Subhadha received the going forth in the Lord's presence and the ordination. And from the moment of his ordination, the Venerable Subhadha, alone, secluded, unwearying, zealous and resolute, in a short time attained to that for which young men of good family go forth from the household life into homelessness, that unexcelled culmination of the holy life, having realized it here and now by his own insight and dwelt therein. Birth is destroyed, the holy life has been lived, what had to be done has been done, there is nothing further here. And the Venerable Subhadha became another of the Arahants. He was the last personal disciple of the Buddha. So he was the very last person to be ordained in the presence of the Buddha. And the Lord said to Ananda, "Ananda, it may be that you will think, the teacher's instruction has ceased. Now we have no teacher. It should not be seen like this. Ananda, for what I have taught and explained to you as Dhamma and Vinaya will at my passing be your teacher. And whereas the monks are in the habit of addressing one another as avuso or friend, this custom is to be abrogated or cancelled after my passing. Senior monks shall address more junior monks by their name, their clan, or as avuso, friend, whereas more junior monks are to address their seniors either as Bante or as Venerable Sir. Let me see, what is 448 and 449? 448 is Bante, 449 is Ayasma. So these are the two terms of respect. If they wish, the order may abolish the minor rules after my passing. After my passing, the monk Chana is to receive the Brahma Danda, Brahma penalty. And Venerable Ananda asked, but Lord, what is the Brahma penalty? Whatever the monk Chana wants or says, he is not to be spoken to, admonished or instructed by the monks. Then the Lord addressed the monks, saying, it may be, monks, that some monk has doubts or uncertainty about the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, or about the path or about the practice. Ask, monks, do not afterwards feel remorse, thinking, the teacher was there before us and we failed to ask the teacher, the Lord, face to face. At these words the monks were silent. The Lord repeated his words a second and a third time, and still the monks were silent. Then the Lord said, perhaps, monks, you do not ask out of respect for the teacher. Then, monks, let one friend tell it to another. But still they were silent. And the Venerable Ananda said, it is wonderful, Lord, it is marvelous. I clearly perceive that in this assembly there is not one monk who has doubts or uncertainty. And the Buddha said, you, Ananda, speak from faith. But the Tathagata knows that in this assembly there is not one monk who has doubts or uncertainty about the Buddha, Dhamma or Sangha, or about the path or the practice. Ananda, at least one of these 500 monks, the least one of these 500 monks is a stream winner, incapable of falling into states of woe, certain of Nibbana. Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha is saying that all the 500 monks are Aryas. You see, the Buddha left 4 instructions as he was about to pass away. The first one, the Buddha said, what I have taught and explained to you as Dhamma and Vinaya, in other words, Suttas and the Vinaya books, will at my passing be your teacher. So now that the Buddha is not with us, our real teacher is the Suttas and the Vinaya. But the Vinaya is only for monks, since now we don't have nuns. So the Suttas will be the teacher for everyone. So we have to remember this, instead of a lot of people running around looking for teacher here and there. And the second one, that after the Buddha passed away, a senior monk can address a junior monk by his name, or avuso, or clan. But the junior monks must address the senior monks as Bhante or Ayasma. Then thirdly, the Sangha may abolish the minor rules. Minor rules, generally, the how do you say, the gross the major rules, you can say the major rules are of 2 classes. One is Parajika, one is Sanghadisesa. Parajika, there are 4 precepts under Parajika. If a monk breaks any one of the 4 precepts, he's automatically no more a monk, even though he wears the robe. And second class, Sanghadisesa, if a monk breaks one of the precepts, of the 13 precepts under Sanghadisesa, then he's half out of monkhood, halfway out of monkhood, and he has to confess and undergo the penance, and it takes 20 months to reinstate him. So these 2 are serious precepts or rules. Then the rest are generally considered as minor. The rest is generally considered minor. But the Buddha here did not say which minor rules can be abolished by the Sangha, for a very good reason. The Buddha generally does not want the Sangha to abolish any minor rule unless it is necessary, unless the Sangha considers necessary. So it is up to the Sangha to decide. So for example, in Asian countries, monks go on alms round barefoot. That is a general practice. But if in Germany or Switzerland or UK, you go on arms round barefoot, you won't be able to stand it. So the Sangha decides they can wear shoes and go pindabat. Or in Asia, it's generally enough for a monk to sleep with one set of robes, and if necessary, maybe a sleeping bag or a blanket. But in the Europe, where it's very cold during the winter, the monks will have to wear long john and sweater and all this when they sleep. Since it's necessary, so these are modified. These rules are modified where it's necessary. So the Buddha purposely did not say so that it is up to the Sangha to decide. Only when it's necessary. And then the fourth one, the Buddha said, you have to take action against this Chana. Chana is a monk who has been very stubborn. He has never listened to advice. So the Buddha told the monks not to speak to him. Then later, after the monks stopped speaking to him, then he realized. Then he changed his ways. So these are the 4 instructions left by the Buddha. Then the Lord said to the monks, "Now monks, I declare to you, all conditioned things are of a nature to decay. Strive on untiringly." These were the Tathagata's last words. Then the Lord entered the first jhana, and leaving that he entered the second, third and fourth jhana. Then leaving the fourth jhana he entered the sphere of infinite space, then the sphere of infinite consciousness, then the sphere of nothingness, then the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception. And leaving that he attained the cessation of feeling and perception. Then the Venerable Ananda said to the Venerable Anuruddha, "Venerable Anuruddha, the Lord has passed away." And Venerable Anuruddha said, "No, friend Ananda, the Lord has not passed away. He has attained the cessation of feeling and perception." Then the Lord, leaving the attainment of the cessation of feeling and perception, entered the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception. And from that he entered the sphere of nothingness, the sphere of infinite consciousness, the sphere of infinite space. From the sphere of infinite space he entered the fourth jhana. From there the third, second and first jhana. Leaving the first jhana he entered the second, the third and the fourth jhana. After leaving the fourth jhana, the Lord finally passed away. And at the Blessed Lord's final passing, there was a great earthquake, terrible and hair-raising, accompanied by thunder. And Brahma Sahampati uttered this verse, "All beings in the world, all bodies must break up. Even the teacher, peerless in the human world, the mighty Lord and perfect Buddhas passed away." And Sakadevaraja uttered this verse, "Impermanent are all compounded things, prone to rise and fall. Having risen, they are destroyed. They are passing truest bliss." This one we just chanted, I think, today. Anicca vata sankara upada vaya dhammino upajitawa nirujanti te sang upasamo sukho. And the Venerable Anuruddha uttered this verse, "No breathing in and out, just with steadfast heart. The sage who is free from lust has passed away to peace. With mind unshaken, he endured all pains. By Nibbana, the illumined mind is freed." And the Venerable Ananda uttered this verse, "Terrible was the quaking, men's hair stood on end, when the all-accomplished Buddha passed away." I'll stop here for a moment. So here you see the Buddha went through the various jhanas, and to attain the final Nibbana, he entered Parinibbana or final Nibbana from the fourth, after leaving the fourth jhana. So this is, you notice, after leaving the fourth jhana. Why the fourth jhana? I think because the fourth jhana is an extremely, the Buddha says, imperturbable state, a very peaceful and unshakable state, so that when the Buddha comes out of it, he's still in that state. But he has to come out of it to enter Nibbana, because he has to make that volition to enter Nibbana. So if a person has not attained the fourth jhana, if you are not be able to enter the fourth jhana easily and at will, I think it will be very difficult to enter, to pass away into Nibbana like the Buddha. And those monks who had not yet overcome their passions wept and tore their hair, raising their arms, throwing themselves down and twisting and turning, crying, "All too soon the Blessed Lord has passed away. All too soon the welfarer has passed away. All too soon the eye of the world has disappeared." But those monks who were free from craving endured mindfully and clearly aware, saying, "All compounded things are impermanent. What is the use of this?" Then the Venerable Anuruddha said, "Friends, enough of your weeping and wailing. Has not the Lord already told you that all things that are pleasant and delightful are changeable, subject to separation and to becoming other? So why all this, friends? Whatever is born, become compounded, is subject to decay. It cannot be that it does not decay. The Devas, friends, are grumbling." And they asked, "Venerable Anuruddha, what kind of Devas are you aware of?" And he said, "Friend Ananda, there are sky Devas whose minds are earthbound. They are weeping and tearing their hair. And there are earth Devas whose minds are earthbound. They do likewise. But those Devas who are free from craving endure patiently, saying, 'All compounded things are impermanent. What is the use of this?'" Then the Venerable Anuruddha and the Venerable Ananda spent the rest of the night in conversation on Dhamma. And the Venerable Anuruddha said, "Now go, friend Ananda, to Kusinara and announce to the Malas, 'Vasetas, the Lord has passed away. Now is the time to do as you think fit.'" "Yes, Bhante," said Ananda. And having dressed in the morning and taken his robe and bowl, he went with a companion to Kusinara. At that time, the Malas of Kusinara were assembled in their meeting hall on some business, and the Venerable Ananda came to them and delivered the Venerable Anuruddha's message. And when they heard the Venerable Ananda's words, the Malas were struck with anguish and sorrow. Their minds were overcome with grief, so that they were all tearing their hair, etc. Then the Malas ordered their men to bring perfume and reeds and gather all the musicians together. And with the perfumes and reeds and all the musicians, and with the 500 sets of garments, they went to the Sal Grove where the Lord's Buddha was lying. And there they honored, paid respects, worshipped and adored the Lord's body with dance and song and music, with garlands and scents, making awnings and circular tents in order to spend the day there. And they thought, "It is too late to cremate the Lord's body today. We shall do so tomorrow." And so, paying homage in the same way, they waited for a second, third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth day. And on the seventh day, the Malas of Kusinara thought, "We have paid sufficient honor with song and dance, etc., to the Lord's body. Now we shall burn his body after carrying him out by the south gate." Then 8 Mala chiefs, having washed their heads and put on new clothes, declared, "Now we will lift up the Lord's body," but found they were unable to do so. So they went to the Venerable Anuruddha and told him what had happened. "Why can't we lift up the Lord's body?" And Venerable Anuruddha said, "Vasetas, your intention is one thing, but the intention of the Devas is another." And they asked, "Bhante, what is the intention of the Devas?" And Venerable Anuruddha said, "Vasetas, your intention is, having paid homage to the Lord's body with dance and song, etc., to burn his body after carrying him out by the south gate. But the Deva's intention is, having paid homage to the Lord's body with heavenly dance and song, etc., to carry him to the north of the city, bring him in through the north gate, and bear him through the middle of the city, and out through the eastern gate, to the Mala shrine of Makutta Bandhana, and there to burn the body." And they said, "Bhante, if that is the Deva's intention, so be it." At that time, even the sewers and rubbish heaps of Kusinara were covered knee-high with coral tree flowers, and the devas as well as the malas of Kusinara honored the Lord's body with divine and human dancing, song, etc. And they carried the body to the north of the city, brought it in through the north gate, through the middle of the city, and out through the eastern gate to the Mala's shrine of Makutta. Here they set the body down. Stop here for a moment. You notice here, in India, this is the tradition. When somebody dies, they show respect by singing and dancing and all that, and bringing garlands and scents to celebrate. Many years ago, when I went to India, to the holy places, for the one and only time, we passed a funeral procession on the road, and we found that people were singing and dancing. So we inquired of the bus driver what is happening, and he said somebody passed away, and we found it a bit strange. In Malaysia, when somebody passes away, they'll be crying and weeping and all that. But there they are singing and dancing and so happy. So, totally different. Then they asked the Venerable Ananda, Lord, how should we deal with the body of the Tathagata? And he replied, Vasetas, you should deal with the Tathagata's body as you would that of a wheel-turning monarch. And they asked, and how do we deal with that, Bhante? And he said, Vasetas, the remains are wrapped in a new linen cloth. This they wrap in teased cotton wool, etc., etc. And having made a funeral pyre of all manner of perfumes, they create the king's body and they raise a stupa at the crossroads. Then the Malas ordered their men to bring the teased cotton wool, and they dealt with the Tathagata's body accordingly. Stop here for a moment. This teas means separated into separate fibers. So the cotton separated into fibers. Now just then the Venerable Kassapa, the great Mahakassapa, was travelling along the main road from Pava to Kusinara with a large company of about 500 monks. And leaving the road, the Venerable Mahakassapa sat down under a tree. And a certain Ajivaka chanced to be coming along the main road towards Pava, and he had picked a coral tree flower in Kusinara. The Venerable Kassapa saw him coming from afar and said to him, Friend, do you know our teacher? And he said, Yes, friend, I do. The ascetic Gotama passed away a week ago. I picked this coral tree flower there. And those monks who had not yet overcome their passions wept and tore their hair, etc. But those monks who were free from craving endured mindfully and clearly aware, saying all compounded things are impermanent. What is the use of this? And sitting in the group was one Subhadda, who had gone forth late in life, and he said to those monks, Enough, friends, do not weep and wail. We are well rid of the great ascetic. We were always bothered by his saying, It is fitting for you to do this, it is not fitting for you to do that. Now we can do what we like, and not do what we don't like. But the Venerable Mahakassapa said to the monks, Friends, enough of your weeping and wailing. Has not the Lord already told you that all things that are pleasant and delightful are changeable, subject to separation and becoming other, or becoming otherwise? So why all these, friends? Whatever is born, become, compounded, is subject to decay. It cannot be that it does not decay. Stop here for a moment. So you see, when the monks heard that the Buddha passed away, most of them were upset. But there was this Subhadda who had gone forth when he was old, and he was very happy. He said, now the great ascetic is gone, then we can do as we like. Is something you notice people when they renounce late in life, it's very hard to change their habits. Like in Thailand, if the monastery they have a lot of people wanting to renounce, then they prefer young people. They don't like old people to renounce because it's harder to change their ways. Meanwhile, 4 Mala chiefs, having washed their heads and put on new clothes, said, "We will light the Lord's funeral pyre." But they were unable to do so. They went to Venerable Anuruddha and asked him why this was. And he said, "Vasetas, your intention is one thing, but that of the Devas is another." And they said, "Well, Lord, what is the intention of the Devas?" And he said, "Vasetas, the Devas' intention is this. The Venerable Kassapa or Mahakassapa is coming along the main road from Pava to Kusinara with a large company of 500 monks. The Lord's funeral pyre will not be lit until the Venerable Mahakassapa has paid homage with his head to the Lord's feet." And they said, "Bhante, if that is the Deva's intention, so be it." Then the Venerable Mahakassapa went to the Mala's shrine at Makuta Bandhana to the Lord's funeral pyre, and covering one shoulder with his robe, joined his hands in salutation, circumambulated the pyre 3 times, and uncovering the Lord's feet, paid homage with his head to them. And the 500 monks did likewise. And when this was done, the Lord's funeral pyre ignited of itself. Stop it for a moment. So you see here, the Devas, even though they are unseen by human beings, they influence our life. So it is good to be respectful of the Devas around. The Buddha said, wherever we stay, there are earth Devas, there are tree Devas and all that. So we have to be respectful to them. And if we come to a new place, it's good to burn incense and all that to show our respect and appreciation of them. And then they will become our protectors. They will take care of us. And when the Lord's body was burned, what had been skin, underskin, flesh, sinew or joint fluid, all that vanished, and not even ashes or dust remains. Only the bones remain. Just as when butter or oil is burned, no ashes or dust remain. So it was with the Lord's body, only the bones were left. And all the 500 garments, even the innermost and the outermost cloth, were burnt up. And when the Lord's body was burnt up, a shower of water from the sky, and another which burst forth from the sal trees, extinguished the funeral pyre. And the Malas of Kusinara poured perfumed water over it for the same purpose. Then the Malas honored the relics for a week in the assembly hall, having made a lattice work of spears and an encircling wall of bows, with dancing, singing, garlands and music. And King Ajatasattu, Vadehi Putta of Magadha, heard that the Lord had passed away at Kusinara, and he sent a message to the Malas of Kusinara. The Lord was a Khattiya, and I am a Khattiya, am worthy to receive a share of the Lord's remains. I will make a great stupa for them. The Lichavis of Vesali heard, and they sent a message. The Lord was a Khattiya, and we are Khattiyas. We are worthy to receive a share of the Lord's remains, and we will make a great stupa for them. The Sakyas of Kapilavatu heard, and they sent a message. The Lord was the chief of our clan. Here they must have altered this a bit because the Buddha was not the chief of their clan. We are worthy to receive a share of the Lord's remains, and we will make a great stupa for them. The Bulayas of Alakappa and the Koliyas of Ramagama replied similarly. The Brahmin of Vetadipa heard, and he sent a message. The Lord was a Khattiya, and I am a Brahmin. And he also requested a share. And the Malas of Pava sent a message. The Lord was a Khattiya. We are Khattiya. We are worthy to receive a share of the Lord's remains, and we will make a great stupa for them. On hearing all this, the Malas of Kusinara addressed the crowd, saying, The Lord passed away in our parish. We will not give away any share of the Lord's remains. At this, the Brahmin Dona addressed the crowd in this verse. Listen, lords, to my proposal. Forbearance is the Buddha's teaching. It is not right that strife should come from sharing out the best of men's remains. Let's all be joined in harmony and peace, in friendship, sharing out portions 8. Let stupas far and wide be put up, that all may see and gain in faith. Well then, Brahmin, you divide up the remains of the Lord in the best and fairest way. Very good friend, said Dona, and he made a good and fair division into 8 portions, and then said to the assembly, Gentlemen, please give me the urn, and I will erect a great stupa for it. So they gave Dona the urn. Now the Mauryas of Pipalavana heard of the Lord's passing, and they sent a message. The Lord was a Khattiya, and we are Khattiyas. We are worthy to receive a portion of the Lord's remains, and we will make a great stupa for them. And they answered, There is not a portion of the Lord's remains left. They have all been divided up, so you must take the embers. And so they took the embers. Then King Ajatasattu of Magadha built a great stupa for the Lord's relics at Rajagaha. The Lichavis of Vesali built one at Vesali. The Sakyans of Kapilavatu built one at Kapilavatu. The Bulayas of Alakappa built one at Alakappa. The Kolyas of Ramagama built one at Ramagama. The Brahmin of Vetadipa built one at Vetadipa. The Malas of Pava built one at Pava. The Malas of Kusinara built a great stupa for the Lord's relics at Kusinara. The Brahmin Dona built a great stupa for the urn. And the Mauryas of Pipalavana built a great stupa for the embers at Pipalavana. Thus 8 stupas were built for the relics, a 9th for the urn, and a 10th for the embers. That is how it was in the old days. 8 portions of relics there were of him, the all-seeing one. Of these, 7 remained in Jambudipa with honor, the 8th in Ramagamas kept by Naga kings. 1/2 the 30 gods have kept. Kalinga's kings have won, the Nagas too. They shed their glory over the fruitful earth. Thus the seers honored by the honored. Gods and Nagas, kings, the noblest men, clasped their hands in homage, for hard it is to find another such for countless aeons. That's the end of the sutta. When the various kings and the various clans asked for a share of the relics, and the Malas at first refused, then this Brahmin Dona, he told them, forbearance is the Buddha's teaching. It is not right that strife should come from sharing out the best of men's remains. So he was afraid because these powerful kings, they demanded a share of the relics. If they were not given a share of the relics, probably they'll march with their army into this Kusinara and get their share. So there'll be fighting. So this Brahmin, he foresaw all this. So he said, the Buddha said to practice forbearance. So give everyone a share. And so the Buddha's remains will go to many places, and people will erect stupas in many places for all to have more faith. So that's a good advice which they took. So that's the end of this sutta. This is the longest sutta in the Nikayas. We have managed to finish it in how many nights? 3 nights. Very good. Anything to discuss?
Because of the Buddha's remains, does any of these still remain today?
Nowadays, there's a lot of claims that a lot of people go around exhibiting what they call relics, and they claim Buddha's relics and the Arahant's relics and all that, but it's very hard to believe. The real relics, I think somebody has told me he has seen in the museum at New Delhi, and they were excavated by geologists, and it's kept in the museum, and he has seen, and those are bone relics, really bones. But this Chinese has got this funny concept that relics means something very beautiful and very small and colored and all this. That's not true. Relics actually, in the Buddha's teachings, the Pali word is sarira, and sarira means the bone relics. After cremation, what remains are called the relics. Quat fui, in Cantonese, Kut Hu in Hokkien.
So these 8 stupas that were built, none of it remain today?
It's buried all over the place, so it's after 2,500 years, you need a deva to find it. But many years ago, they did dig and found like Sariputta and Mahamoggallana's relics. India is one country, because Buddhism was flourished one time in India. So there are many Buddhist temples buried underground. Over time, it's covered already because with the decay of Buddhism and Buddhism died out. So those Buddhist temples were abandoned. Some of them were taken over by Hindus. But many were abandoned. So over time, being neglected, they fell down and broke up and slowly covered over. So there are certain states, like for example, there's a state in India called Bihar. This word Bihar comes from the word Vihara. Vihara is the same as Vihara. So it's called Bihar because there are thousands and thousands of Viharas in that state. But all of them are buried. And now India is mostly a Hindu country, and so they don't make the effort to dig up. And not only Bihar, even like Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bangladesh, all these places, even probably Iran, you have Buddha statues and temples are buried underground, but now many of them are Muslim countries, so they don't want to dig up all this. Relics means the remains after cremation. So everybody after cremation, those are called relics. But as mentioned in this sutta, only 4 persons are worthy of the relics, worthy of veneration: Sammasambuddha, Pacceka Buddha, Arya, and Universal Monarch. So like a lot of Buddhists in Malaysia, after their mother or father pass away, and after cremation, they keep the relics in the temple to pray. Actually, not necessary. Just dump it into the sea or into the river. After all, the person has passed on. He's not going to stay in the bones, the relics. In Buddhist countries like Thailand, after somebody has passed away and they cremate, out of attachment, they still keep the relics, and they put, for example, a farmer in his land, there'll be small stupas where their family remains are kept. So each person has passed away, they will have one stupa. I'm not sure the stupa might be 2 feet high, like that, 2 or 3 feet high.
There's no other places, and yet we find that in Buddhist countries, they make such a big fuss over the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
Use it for ceremony, and use it as a case in a stupa where they use as focal point for meditation and to help.
Yeah, all that is useless. Some monks, they give some relics and they claim that it's the Buddha's relics. How can there be so many of the Buddha's relics around?
These so-called relics, I don't have them, but I don't know exactly whether it's around. Anyway, if I don't want to
What to do with them? You can give to some temple which wants lah. There'll otherwise give to some devotees who want. There'll be some devotees who want. Okay, shall we end here?